Welcome to Expedient Means with Lin Wei on Tom Monk Radio. Lin currently resides in China and is the founder and head teacher of Guizhen Philocultural Society. His extensive experience in Buddhist and Taoist meditation, Qigong, martial arts, and traditional Chinese medicine. To learn more about Lin, please visit his website at www.guizhenhui.net. Tonight we'll be speaking about family and cultivation. So welcome back again, Lin.
Hey now.
Yeah, so this one is a prescient topic to a lot of people. And I know we've all had difficulty trying to achieve balance between the two of them. And
Right.
yeah, just wondering what your thoughts were on that.
Well, okay. So as a child, I was just a child practicing really, and I had no discrimination about if I could do this cultivation stuff, or if I had a family or whatnot. I was just an 8-year-old kid all throughout my teens, going to school, hanging out with my friends, watching cartoons, doing what kids do, but then having time to myself here and there and meditating and practicing and whatnot. So just going by that itself, I can utilize this and say, you just practice and do what you do daily and adjust what you do to fit the mannerism of practice you're practicing. That's really it. But the question comes, how far can one get as an at-home cultivator without having to run to a monastery or build a little hut in the woods somewhere and stay away from the world? Well, this becomes a conflict with a lot of people because they're thinking, well, if they're using the Buddha as an example, the Buddha was a monk, he left his rich family, and well, he created another rich family, a whole bunch of poor guys who went out begging for food, ended up having a beautiful place to live in. Who knows if it was beautiful or not, but it was just a big place where all these monks all gathered with him, and he had his own family of monks. Interesting indeed. Then you have immortals or Taoist cultivators or whatnot who would X themselves out of society and show up every now and then. So which way do you follow? I mean, people get a little confused here, and really, it's from me, it's very simple. From how I would look at it, comes down like this: cultivation is in everything that you're doing, whether it is you have a family or not. You make time to do your own personal practice to refine your mind, and then you have the time actually out in society. Or at the home society, which is with the wife and kids or the husband and kids, or whatever family members are around you, girlfriends or whatnot, boyfriends or whatnot. That time is set for how to interact with them based on how you've cultivated. So this whole thing is very interdependent, intertwined.
But couldn't you say that when you create children, you're basically creating, pretty heavy attachments? I know Siddhartha, he essentially walked away from his son and wife, right?
Well, because he had the financial means to do so. I mean, his wife and kids were taken care of financially. So when you have a child, let's say you're ultra rich, in the Buddhist case, his kid and his wife were rich. I mean, they had nothing to worry about financially. So they had the emotional attachments to worry about. Now people can say, well, if I'm rich, I can just leave my family then, because they have all the money they need to take care of themselves. Well, it's not that you need to do that, or you can do that. The fact is, if you do that, and you don't attain enlightenment in this lifetime, or in any other lifetime, and you just dilly-dally with your time that you've stepped away from your family with, then you've done more pain to them than you did good. So this is twofold. If you leave and your family is screwy, meaning they have no way to take care of themselves, or they have all the money to take care of themselves with, but it's just simple that you get lazy in your practice 5 years down the line, you've done more harm than good. When you attain enlightenment, your generations before you benefit from it. That's some fun stuff right there. So having a child doesn't mean you have more attachments. It means you have responsibility. Attachment is how you're going to view it. Okay, so they go, oh, I have a kid, I have to go get some money now, I have to raise a family, I don't have time to meditate, I don't have time to read sutra, I don't have time to read text, I don't have time to, practice or whatever. No, you do have time to practice. Who said you have to sit in meditation all the time? No one did. We assume that's what just needs to be done. If you have the time to sit and meditate, you sit and meditate. If you don't, you watch your thinking all the time. You be mindful. You apply mindfulness practice.
Yeah, but it feels good to be in nature. It feels good to be in the mountains. It feels good to have solitude, right?
Sure, but where's the solitude really counting? Is it counting? Is it conditional based on, where you are? Then it's not even real peace that you're getting. If I had a school and my school was smack in the middle of a very busy avenue, where you had horns honking, you had sounds of buses stopping, you had traffic, okay, people, walking traffic, car traffic, you had train station next door. And when I did a lecture in Pace University as a guest speaker for one of the students there, it was a 10-minute lecture. And it was asked, what's better to have a sitting out in the mountains, quote unquote, in nature, or being in the city doing your meditation. It doesn't matter where you're doing meditation. It matters where your mind is. If your mind is not where you are, then even if you're in the mountains, you're not in the mountains. Even if you're in the city, you're not in the city. Even if you're at home, you're not at home.
Well, I guess in a way then you could use those distractions as an expedient, right? You could use that to train your mind to be even more focused.
Yes, and they would not be distractions, they would be expedients. They would be tools that we use. Just like water is a tool that we utilize when we take a shower to clean our body and the hair and whatever. Or a toothbrush to clean our teeth and keep our mouth smelling pristine fresh. Okay? It's just like that. There was a family, stories of families, cultivators back, in old China. Enlightened family, a mother, father, and child. And the father was asked if cultivation was hard. He's like, oh, it's very hard. And the mother was asked if it was easy, and she was like, it's very easy. And the child was like, it's neither. It's neither hard nor easy. And all three of them were enlightened, but they had a different aspect on how they practiced their cultivation. One practiced it ruggedly, very hard, dealt with the adversities, and the other one dealt with life being very simple. Well, because she had everything taken care of for her. So all she had to do was cook, clean, maintain around the house and do her practice. And the child had everything. It had a house, it had the food, it had everything set up for it. So it was neither hard, it was neither easy. So in our lifetime now, we like the luxury of sitting in meditation, quote unquote, being in nature. But nature is everywhere. It's not just in a mountain. It's not just near a waterfall. It's not just, on a grass field. It's in the concrete jungle. That's nature.
It just, I guess, it just peacefulness just seems to resonate more, in the wilderness or in the mountains or whatever, I guess.
Yes, because even I had thought that as a child as well. Like, oh, I love being in the mountains. I love being in what I thought was just to be nature, trees and mountains and rivers and such beautiful. Yes, it is a nice feeling. But we're conditioned in that sense that these places are the only places you can go to become free, quote unquote, from the stresses around you. Then when you come back to the city, all that stress comes back. Then you never were actually free to begin with at all. That means the cultivation didn't do anything for you really, except for the time being feel really nice and comfortable. It's like going to a massage and you just going to get, comfortable, to feel soft and fluffy. You go to a massage therapist and you work your muscles and help you feel comfortable and move that blood and chi, and you feel good and you get some health benefits. Very good. But then you go right back to the same mindset you were in before you went to the massage therapist. So you never were truly at peace, at ease, or in comfort. That all has to do with own mind. See, before I had a child, I already had set a plan that by the time I'm 35, I would have a child, because then I would at least had everything set, meaning my work would be stable. Not that I had a stable job. It means the path in which I'm going would have anchored in so deep that there is no way I would be without a job. Okay, not that I'm making thousands of dollars, just I make enough. So having a child now, it's the same thing. Now I do more because I have more opportunity to do more of what I love to do. Okay. Before that, there was cultivation, have to cultivate only. Okay. And that was what fulfilled this end result. Okay. That was a mannerism I was able to fulfill because I just didn't believe in what other people said it would be impossible to do. Okay.
So why the desire for a child to begin with?
It wasn't a desire. It was just something that would just be. People think, oh, okay, well, you have sex and then you just, you make sure that's what you're doing to have a child. Sure. It was, okay, time is around, it's around that time. I think I can fulfill this specific goal. I can go for that. Not everyone who goes and has sex just gets pregnant. This specific time period is specific if the woman's body isn't healthy enough, if the man's body isn't healthy enough, then you won't have the baby. So in this case, everything was fine to have the child. Okay. Some people really need to. They built the structure of their practice all around being out in the mountains, staying in solitude, and cultivating. Doesn't mean it's wrong. If that's going to be what it is for them, that's fine. And then they say, well, I want to have a girlfriend. So they have a girlfriend. Oh, wait. Oh, my God. We have a baby now. It's like, okay, now what do I do? Holy crap, my world's coming to an end. No. Now you become the Buddha of the household. Now you become a bodhisattva of the household. Now everything you do is for the world of your household. It wasn't that before you were cultivating and now everywhere is the world for you and you're going out saving and helping everyone. No, that's never happening. All these people are like, oh, I want to cultivate and become some great thing and know this great wisdom and go and help a lot of people. But in their course of years, they really didn't leave the city they were in. They really didn't do much of what they did, maybe a few workshops here and there, but that's not enough. So when you have a house, when you have a family, okay, how you are as a being, as a person, is going to reflect on that family, and that family is going to reflect you. So how that child's going to act, how the child's going to be is going to reflect how you are. How the wife is going to reflect how you are. And then how you are is going to reflect how the wife is, and vice versa. So if one has oh, I must take some time, I'm very frustrated, I need to go and meditate. Well, it doesn't matter then if you were meditating, if you were a cultivator or not, you still be frustrated. So it doesn't matter. We have a saying.
Well,
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, what if your wife gets pissed off that you want to go meditate? Uh, what do you do? Do you not meditate, or do you make her happy? Do you always make her happy and, sacrifice your meditation?
No. We're talking from the man's standpoint now. If the woman wants to go meditate, she'll just go meditate. The man wants to go meditate, the woman doesn't want the man to do so. And there has to be an understanding of, if this does not happen, if at least this does not happen, then things can go haywire. See, there's a nourishment to the foundation of how things are being brought up on. And if part of the party, one of the person in the relationship doesn't understand that, of course there's going to be conflict. We know that. So how do you deal with it? You set time. Maybe you wake up a little earlier. Okay, and you think that if one thinks, oh, well, waking up early, I'm not going to have enough sleep, so it's going to be a problem. I always have to I end up going to sleep around 11. How am I going to wake up at 4:30, 5 o'clock to go and meditate? So on and so forth. When I have to be at work by 9 o'clock, I got to get out of the house by 7. So you just shorten your meditation time, 30 minutes. You just do it. But you do it not in the daytime structure if you're going to be home all day. Sometimes meditation is not needed. But then again, if you're a cultivator and that is what you do, then you should definitely find someone who supports that or does that as well.
So why shackle yourself with a family to begin with? I mean, what's the point? Is
If
it
it
just
become if it becomes a choice that someone wants to do that as a cultivator, they want to have a family, then they have to deal with their choices. Remember, it's a choice. You don't need to. Society built up this image that we must have a family. No, we don't need to have a family. You could if you want to. I chose to want to. If anyone wants to go any deeper with that, we could, but this is not about me. This is generally, um, if you're a cultivator and you want to have someone come with you on the path of cultivation, it's best to make sure that they already are doing it. If you want to start teaching the person how to do it, it's going to have a little problem because it's going to take some time for that person to make this something that they deem necessary in their life for them to want to do it every day. Okay, which usually doesn't turn out too good. There are exceptions, but it's always good to find someone who already does this. So there's always going to be an understanding of, oh, this is his meditation time. This is her meditation time. This is what they do. If
what?
there's not this understanding, it's going to be very conflicting. But you can use
So
a conflict as a cultivation method too.
yeah, so I was gonna say, I mean, a lot of times through relationships, people change, right? You might have a woman that um, meditates at first, or to try and make her man happy, she'll kind of say she's on the path and go through the motions, and then after she has a baby, or after a year or something, she loses interest, and then I don't know. I guess I'm not even sure where I'm going with this, but how would
It
you deal with
happens.
how would you deal with that?
Well, that's all a person's individual choice. Also, that means they just don't have the affinities to stick with it. You getting angry with it, getting frustrated with it, just shows the level of cultivation you're at as well. So in that case, that's just their problem. That's just their path. You leave them be. You still
Yeah,
do
but
what you do.
their problem becomes your problem.
Perhaps. So then you make that problem your fuel for cultivation. If you're becoming a better person, not much frustrated, not much angry, more kinder, more balanced in your own. Well, balanced meaning you're not flipping out emotionally here and there. 1 minute good, 1 minute psychotic. Um, that will just be a good example to the person. If the person doesn't see it, that is really their problem. We don't have to carry their burden, but we can be an example of that kind of positivity that we would like to emulate.
So what if you feel like, and I don't want to, not sure how to phrase this, but what if, say, you're vibrating at a certain frequency or a certain level, and your partner's vibrating at a lower level? How do you
Okay, well,
deal?
basically, you're all this happy, good feeling all day long, and you're like everything is fine, don't worry. But they can't conceive of that kind of idea because their world is a little, it's like craziness, stress here, stress there. I can't get a hold of this, I can't get a hold of that. So how do you deal with it, right? You don't just divorce them for it. you know, it's simple. Be patient. I mean, if the relationship becomes very toxic, meaning it's like life and death kind of situation, you leave. I mean, what can you do? Nobody's changing. You stopping cultivation or one stopping cultivation is going to cause, just more problems. Then you just have to move on. I mean, if someone has a knife in your back every day, you got to figure out a way to get rid of it. But that's extremity. We're talking extreme um, conflict there, and it's not good. Some people just hate the idea of cultivation and think it's totally crazy. In the beginning, led you to believe that they were all cool with it, and at the end, they're just like, "Oh, you're retarded, ridiculous. I can't take this anymore. All this, you know." Uh, Positive outlook on things is kind of getting me sick and blah 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 blah. So you got to really make a choice. Do you want to stay in this type of relationship, or do you want to move on and or leave? I chose cultivation over people. I don't choose people over practice. If the person in my life when I was younger was just a little bit too um, not negative, don't like using these kind of fluffy words, but detrimental to one's health, even being with me, their health becomes bad because we're not vibrating in a specific level of mutuality here. My way is just to piss the person off, you know. But I know what I do doesn't hurt people, doesn't hurt everybody else, and definitely just doesn't hurt myself. I'm not going to give it up. So I've left relationships because of that, and don't regret it at all.
Okay, you can leave a spouse, but what if you've got a child with that spouse?
Then you have to look at this. If the relationship is going to be where there's going to be constant arguing, where the child always faces arguing going on, if both people are yelling and screaming off their heads, it's not healthy at all. So one of the person, especially the cultivator, is going to have to adjust their views and their speech and their conduct, and how to handle themselves when they're facing these types of adversity. Sometimes speaking is not even necessary. Okay. Sometimes in arguments, you just don't need to speak. Maybe it's not argument and it's just straight out dislike whatsoever for cultivation altogether. You can't just walk out on the child. So you got to try to make things work. You got to be an example of, well, cultivation is healthy. How are you going to do that in a healthy way? And whether or not the person likes it, you will still do it. Okay? Or they're going to take one to court. I want a divorce because he meditates. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but usually they don't see things that way, right? It's their mind is so clouded, that they can twist things, and it's not
Of
because you
course.
meditated. It's because you are absent, or you ignore them, or you don't do whatever they want at a given point in time.
Oh, right. Because, well, whether it's man or woman, cultivators are seen as being selfish because they do what makes them happy. And what makes them happy is meditate and see the world totally different than most other people do. So they're considered selfish, dreamers, crazy, deluded. But who said having to follow everyone else is the right way? Okay, this is a question we all got to ask. And even if the person is not a cultivator and just doesn't like the person cultivating, really, you can't do much to change that person. You just have to be better than that person wants you to react. Okay, usually if you don't react in the position that you don't react in a way people want you to react, then you're considered to be ignoring them or not seeing their point. Basically, to deal with that is simply continue doing things the way you do. Person wants you to get angry and argue, you don't, because that's just not good. And when you do, they say you're not good anyway. Whether man or woman, you're screwed either way.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, me too. So, um, so you just do that which keeps you healthy, energetically, mentally, physically, and we'll speak in terms of those three, not being separate, just so we understand what we're focusing on. Okay. I'm not going to go into my experiences, but I'll speak off of it in terms of the bad aspect, because mostly people think of the bad aspect first. So let's get that out of the way. Being with someone who doesn't want or doesn't like or tries to interrupt your cultivation time, your own personal time, you spend maybe a half hour, maybe an hour with child or not. Okay. How do you deal with that? Very simple. You still utilize the adversity to cultivate patience, cultivate compassion, and understanding that this person really has no clue what the hell they're talking about. So you don't have to school them on it, but your reaction would allow them, okay, either to become more angry or to just totally be at a loss for words. Either way, people with a negative attitude towards your own personal time are always going to find excuses to make it where you are wrong. You just got to deal with that. That just comes along with the playing field. That's just this way it's going to be on the relative sense, because people are very selfish. Okay, whether they're cultivators or not, people can be very selfish with their own desires and feelings. Or you're not paying attention to them. Who said that has to be done anyway? When someone
Yeah,
don't pay attention to me, I personally don't care. It's not important. But people think that has to be an importance in a relationship where I'm angry, so you have to acknowledge that I'm angry. Do you acknowledge you're angry? Of course, I'm angry. But no, acknowledging your anger means that you know the cause, You know the conditions which are maintaining your anger, and you know the outcome which is going to happen. Now, if you don't know one of any of the three, then you have no clue what you're talking about. And that's going too far. People really can't accept that because you have to take responsibility for how you feel, how you speak, what you think. All of that all of that gives out a vibration, and people don't want to take a responsibility for that sometimes.
I think, and I got to be careful how I phrase this, but it seems like most relationships out there, this day and age anyhow, are not really selfless love. It's more like an egotistical love. Like they're with another person because they're afraid of being alone. They're with the other person because it fulfills some need that they have, rather than because they genuinely care about the other person.
Well, right. A lot of relationships are built upon a notion that the other person has to give you a feeling. And I'm really breaking it down to its skin here. We seldom find a relationship where there's actual values involved, where a person values their significant other and their thoughts and their views. Doesn't mean they follow what they say, they just value it. They don't get pissed off when the person has their own idea about something. They just value this. They go, okay, that's good, maybe that can be useful, and they disregard it if it's not, and the other person's like totally fine with it, because they don't need to be listened to in that aspect. You don't have to be following them every word or every moment. Some people take that not just in a relationship or personal relationship, but they take it as a friendship relationship, student-teacher relationship, business relationship. They bring these types of issues and complexities into every aspect of their lives because they're brought up with this environment that teaches them, oh, relationships are this specific way. We have it in movies, TV shows, talk shows, relationship talk shows, how to find a girlfriend or find a boyfriend kind of relationships, talk shows, I mean. Movies, music, all this, poor me, I need a boyfriend, I need a girlfriend, do you want to be that person, I'll treat you so beautiful kind of music, and well, that's just an inherent need you got to fulfill in yourself. You don't get love from other people. If you don't have it in your own specific mind in the relative sense, you're not going to feel it from other people. Love is not something that you get as a gift from people. It's an action. When you feel love, you display an action. It's manifested through action. It's manifested through speech, through behavior, through thinking, and it emanates, it resonates out of you, vibrates all around you. Okay? That's when we're talking about love. Oh, I love you 1 minute, and then like 3 days later, I hate you. That's emotion. That's not love. But that initial feeling, that initial spark of love that you get when you meet that person you feel is really great for you for that, 20 minutes, that's non-discriminative love. That's very compassionate, okay? That's very good. That's what we're talking about. The love that is non-discriminative. Now, that's universal. Why? Because it nourishes all things.
Okay, what about this one? I've got a friend, I'm not going to mention any names, who didn't really want children, and now he's a cultivator, and now he's faced with a situation where he will soon be a father, and it's pretty much rocked his world. I know it's caused him a lot of consternation. How would you recommend he deal with that?
With all due respect, get a job. Go live out in the world and use your cultivation for good. That means you have to now go out in the world, interact with people, and what you've benefited from in cultivation, give it to others by being that outstanding, wonderful person you are as a cultivator, and teach that child the same thing. It's just very simple. Okay,
That's
when you don't,
easier said than done.
of course, but that's cultivation. Cultivation is hard, cultivation is easy, and cultivation is neither. Which path we want to utilize? You see, everything can be a tool for cultivation. But then what? Is that natural? Of course it is natural. Because there's nothing unnatural. There's no unnatural substance on this planet, no matter how deadly it could be. Because it's all used by the elements of this planet. Okay? How we're utilizing them Now, that can be in a negative way to cause death and harm to people, or in a positive way. Okay? Like we can have unlimited amounts of power to fuel all the electricity we want in the world and all the heating we want in the world and all the luxury we have. We can have unlimited power for that. But it's used in a way to cause people strife and problems with bills. Feeds the pockets of corporations. Now, as an at-home cultivator, the job as an at-home cultivator with a family is to provide. You are the bodhisattva of the household. Okay, the father is a bodhisattva, the mother is a bodhisattva. Everything is done for that child. That child is the whole entire world. That's the person who has no food on the corner sleeping in the street. That's the person who's multi-million-dollar person who has no clue how to be a good human. Okay? That's the president who has no clue on how to, keep things straight running in the country. That's what the child is. So you have to be that example. You have to be the educator for the child, to be the conscious for the child. Okay. For me, I have this child, and once the child's conceived, you're the parent right away. Okay, the mother is the mother, the father is the father. Right away, once that conception is done, everything you do influences that child. So what I used to do, I would recite, mantras for the baby. I would talk to the baby, tell what I did throughout the day and how I handled things, and if I was a little stupid or if I was a little frustrated or whatever, tell him what he's getting into. Are you sure you want to get into this? Like think twice, you still got a chance. And so the child's born, and probably nothing exceptional. I mean, first day it's born, the moment it comes out, I said, open your eyes, look at your mother, look at your father, and opened its eyes and just watched. It let out a little scream when it came out. I was like, ah! You're like, holy crap, it's cold in here, Then it got its vitamin K shot. It's the only shot I allowed it to get. And it let out a little scream and started crying. I said, don't cry, the pain is over, really. You just got shocked. And it just looked at me and made this disgruntled face, this sad, pouted face, the one his mother makes when she faces things she doesn't like. Sometimes she sticks out the bottom lip and just like pouts a little. And I said, holy crap, he made his first face, his first emotional face. And we had a picture of it, but it was on my father's phone and he lost his phone. Damn. Anywho, but what does that mean? It doesn't mean nothing special. But it was as though at that moment, what was said touched the baby. It was able to respond. When it would cry, I would say, it's all right, whatever, and explain what the situation was. It would be calm. Now, when someone shows him something really nice, like an iPad, says, oh, look at these pictures, and the kid goes to reach for the screen. Kids love to grab, and touch and throw and bang, 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 I say, no, don't touch that. You got to ask if you could touch it. And the person's like, no, it's okay. It's okay. It's like, no, 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 no. He shouldn't just go straight for it. He has to learn to ask, or he has to learn to wait before touching something. That's not his in that sense. And the kid looked at me and took his hands away. And he just looked at me. And the woman says, no, it's okay. You can touch the iPad. And I said, it's okay. You can touch the iPad now. And he looked at me, slowly putting his hands out, waiting to see if I would say no. And I said, it's okay, you can. And then he put his hands on the iPad, and then took his hands away as though he was done playing and just looked away and just didn't bother with it. But if it was the other way around, which I observed with him, he would take it, look, move it around, almost like want to bang it on the table to see what happens, if the things can pop out of it. Later on throughout the months, response is different. Now he just looks for an okay to touch something. So it's how the kind of person you are is going to reflect on the child, and it's going to reflect on the mother. Now, my wife is not a cultivator. She doesn't sit and meditate. She doesn't read sutras or texts. She doesn't believe. But as she sees things going with me, she's like, oh, okay. So she'll ask certain things. Oh, what about this? How do we see this? How do we view this? So without pushing the person asks. And that's enough cultivation that she would need. Because if the man is a cultivator or the woman's a cultivator, that person is the carrier in the family of cultivation, even if they're not cultivators.
So I guess that's, as a cultivator, that's a danger that you could commit yourself, is try to push your views on your spouse, right? That's sort of the opposite of what I've been harping about.
Very
But
much.
yeah,
Yeah, very much. We can, when I was younger, I used to say, if you're not going to start cultivating, don't even bother with me. And if you can't handle it, you got to take a hike. I was very, very rigid, you know? So the person would try and really try, and they would break down, like, I can't do this anymore. I can't, and I'm afraid you're going to leave. And I said, you know what? You tried. You got a taste of it. You know, this is the life I live. It's not right for you. You find your own path with it. Eventually,
get
it'll
out of
get,
here.
you know, and no, no, I stayed in. But over time, you know, it became very conflicting. No, I don't want you meditating. No, I don't want you drinking tea. I don't know. I was like, get out of here. I'm gonna still do that, and no matter it pissed off the person as much as it did, I still did it, not out of spite, but because that's what I do. That's just what I do, and no one's gonna stop me from doing that. Not because I'm rebellious about it, but you know, I breathe. I'm gonna do it this way. You tell me not to breathe, I gotta laugh at you and walk away. You know, so over time, that relationship didn't really not work out. It just didn't go towards the result of family life with that person, which was
So
grateful because it became very toxic.
there's another angle too. What if you got married, you were at a certain state, and then say halfway through your marriage you started cultivating, and then that changed you to the point where the other person found it hard to relate to you?
Well, then you would have to associate with that other person in a way that they can relate. You
Well,
see, it shouldn't be where divorce can become very simple. Oh, I just don't like you anymore and just leave. You know, it's easy now because, you know, it's a good, you know, if you're a lawyer, it's good business. And it empowers people to think they have a rightful choice or just an individual free will choice to get married or divorce with whomever they want. Um, but that really it shouldn't be the case unless it's just so toxic where you can't work with that person anymore. You can't work with yourself. You're hurting yourself. That person's hurting themselves. Then you have to go another way. You know, if water can't move through one specific way, fine, finds another path eventually. So be like water, my friend. You know, stuff like that. Um, but at some point down the line, you start cultivating. The other person can relate to you. Well, try not to think that person must have to relate to you. Maybe you have to relate to that person now. You got an edge now. You understand the mind a little bit, perhaps. You know, maybe you don't. Maybe you do. Let's say you do. Then you got to understand that person can't find don't have the connection, can find that connection with cultivation in this lifetime. Fine. Then don't have them cultivate whatsoever. But don't have to relate to them with cultivation at all. My wife doesn't cultivate. I don't talk to her about cultivation at all. I do the recording show. She asked me when I come home, so how was the show? I recorded very well. What'd you talk about? Well, I start laughing and I go, well, I did this, we did this commentary, or we talked about this thing in practice and whatnot. And the conversation is over. I don't need to feel like the person understands me to make me believe or feel like I can love that person. My relationship and the love that we have in this specific relationship is not based on how much that person can understand me. It's based on how we can communicate with each other and how we can go through our daily life respecting each other and empowering each other to do what makes ourselves happy in a safe way. Safe happiness, you know, not becoming alcoholics and saying, okay, let me go buy you another bottle today. You know,
It's funny you just read my mind, because one of the things I was going to mention was in one of my previous relationships, one of the outcomes, I guess, of cultivation was I didn't like being around people that were intoxicated, and I did not have any desire to drink or become intoxicated myself.
Right.
And normally, most people would think that's a good thing. Well, to this person, it was like, no, she wanted me to become intoxicated. She wanted me, like, why can't I be normal? Why can't I get drunk and act like an idiot like everybody? You know what I mean?
I understand. And you know what? When it's at that point, you know, grab your stuff and you walk away. Like I said, if it was detrimental to your health and well-being, where you're really you're quote unquote just being patient, just for sake of saying, embodying trying to be patient. The person is not changing. Your energy and vibration is not enough to help other people transform, which is not really the point, because if that could happen, the Buddha would be helping everyone raise their vibration and everyone will be awakened. Or mortals will be helping everyone do the same thing. And well, that's not happening because that's not their job. They can't do that.
Got to do your own work.
You got to do your own cultivation. You got to do your own spiritual work. That's why I don't read, tarot cards for people or read people's futures or stuff. You got to do that stuff yourself. You got to figure out what's going to happen for yourself based on the cause and conditions and whatnot. So that was healthy for you to just say, hey, I got to step out of this. I stepped out of it too. Situations where, I don't want you doing this, I don't want you cultivating, interrupting here, interrupting there when I'm practicing or teaching or just sitting or reading or whatever. Too selfish. You're too selfish. Okay, I'm going to still be selfish then. Man, so it becomes very complex. Anywho, you just got to, when it's detrimental like that, step away. Always is this. Like my wife, for example, I'll use this as an example. She doesn't cultivate. She knew this is what I do. She knew the depth of what I do. When it was a shock for her to a degree, because sometimes I just talked about some stuff people can't even grasp or will find unbelievable to happen. And I'll say, oh my God, I was just outside in this thing, this person came around or this thing came around or I saw this situation. She'll look at me with the smirk on her face and, you're effing nuts, man. And I would just talk like, oh, la, 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 for about 5 minutes. And she'll look at me and she'll, really? Were you hallucinating? That's our response. And I start laughing. I say, no, it's okay. Don't believe me. I'm just, talking out my ass right now. And I play it that way. Because it doesn't matter if she believes me. She knows I'm retardedly crazy. She knows I'm nuts. I am delusional. I am crazy. I am everything people think I am. Okay, sure. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that she does. The fact is that I don't treat her in a disrespecting manner. She respects me. I respect her. We know what we are going to be doing with each other and with our lifetime, and we empower that, But it turns out later on, my grandfather died a long time ago. Can you, do something to make sure he's going to be okay now? Do a little thing for him, or our dog died. Can you do a little thing for the dog? Or we're leaving the house for a few days. Do something to make sure nothing crazy comes into our house. And I just smile. I don't laugh. I don't say, "Oh, now you believe," and I'll throw it in her face. I say, "Okay, no problem," because I know now she's like, "Oh, maybe there's something to it." But I don't have to keep questioning her about it. I don't have to discuss more about it. I don't have to push it in her face about it. So that's what you do as a cultivator. You don't have to push people to learn. You don't need people to believe in what you know or what you believe you know or what you feel. You don't. All you have to do is be a good example of the goodness of what you practice.
Okay. Sorry, I was just going to go back to that point about, you said the simplest thing is just to get a job and be a father. Now, what if you do that and you feel like it's just killing you inside? It feels like you're selling your soul to this corporation, or it just feels like you're dying. Like, how do you deal with that?
Change your views, realize what the actual condition is. Or make your own business. Bust your ass and make your own kind of job, make your own business. Go be self-employed and do something that's benefiting in the viewpoint of what you think the world should be. And bust your ass for it and make sure it happens. That's all.
And I guess
easier said than done, sure, but you do it that way if you can't deal with working for other people. Hey, I work for an educational institution in China who teaches the educational system based on how communist government has created the educational system, which is also based on how influential the educational system was in old China. So there's remnants of it here. I don't have to agree with them. I don't have to disagree with them. But within that adversity, I have the opportunity to promote Chinese culture, to promote principles and philosophies that can help these kids grow up in a specific and better way, maybe better. And I take it. And when I'm asked by people here, people in the streets, people at work, what would I change about this and that about education? I don't sit there doing a whole lecture series on what's bad and what's good. I sit there and go, okay, well, take what we have and just change up how it's promoted, how you're teaching the mannerism and the educational things that you need to teach. How do you present it to the children? Utilize that, what people will consider an adversity, that limitation, to open up people's minds in a way that doesn't necessarily have to be for cultivation. Just let them be a little bit more creative. Just let them be a little bit more understanding about things in the world. That's all. You don't have to do this whole revolutionary thing that people always think has to be done in the West. No, it just doesn't have to work that way, and it doesn't always work that way. And who said it ever worked in the first place?
I guess too, another important thing would be to, I'm trying to think how to phrase this again, but how to balance your economics with your happiness with your family. So in other words, in the West, people think they got to work 50, 60 hours to give their kids, a 6-bedroom house with a playroom with arcade games and swimming pools and, like, et cetera, et cetera. When in reality, the kid would be much happier if they had less, but had, more time with their parents, right? Or more time as a family. So, balancing those things are important too. It's good not to get caught up in the rat race.
Well, if you think that that's what the kid needs, you're going to create conditions where you'll have to go out and get a job for 60 hours a week, busting your butt so you can give the kid a 6-room apartment or a 6-room house, all the Xbox games you want, or all the types of, luxuries, technological luxuries that most kids feel they need. And why complain? You're doing it. You set the stage, or not you. I'm saying generally, a person has set the stage for the kid to expect this is how the world's going to have to be. Why is the parent complaining that, oh, I'm so busy, I'm so stressful? Well, you did it to yourself. You believe this is how the world has to be for that kid. That's the problem. What we assume we believe raising a family has to be is our problem. Okay? Most people here in China is like, you get married, you have to buy a house. When their houses out here are condos. They're not actual houses like we have in the West, where you have actual detached house or actual house that has, a 1-family floor or a 2-family or a 3-family house or whatever. No, it doesn't look like that. It's actual big building complexes with condos, 2-bedroom condos, 1-bedroom condos, 3-bedroom condos, 4 or whatever. Okay, that's what they consider a house, a place you live in, right? So anyway, if you don't do that, well then, you shouldn't get married, and then you shouldn't have kids. But right after marriage, you should have a kid. So all these teenagers, they go to college thinking, once I go to college, I'll have to get married after college, or I go get a little career, and at least I have to get married before I'm 30, or at least before I'm 28, because by then I just feel like I'm wasted. No one's going to marry me by the time I'm 30 or over. So they're stressed out, thinking that they have to live this specific life. And I asked some of them, I say, you just finished college. You're going to get married? You don't even have a job. You don't even know what the world is like. And you're going to, limit yourself to, or not limit, you're going to put yourself in a family world. You have no clue how to deal with people. You have no clue how to utilize your own abilities. And you just waste. Why even go to college? You just wasted all that. Don't go to college then. If you're just going to get married by the time you're 26, screw that. If not, you're not going to go and get a job ever again. Some do go get a job after they have the child, a year after, then they go find a job and work on their career. So their life is ultra stressful, but that's what they choose. So I figure this, I tell them, if this is what you're choosing, why are you getting angry for? You think there's no other choice? There was. Now you only have this choice. So while you only have this choice, why don't you make this choice a better one that is not as stressful? Oh, well, if I'm not doing this, then I'm looked at wrong by other people. So you see, it's very complex in society in certain areas of the world. Who cares if it's good or bad or right or wrong? That's not the point. That defeats the whole purpose. thinking, oh, well, that's stupid. It doesn't matter because look how things are in the West as well. One cannot sit there and say this is stupid, that is better. It doesn't work that way. There's pros and cons in everything because it's all based on relativity. It's just all about how you're going to utilize the conditions around you. The choices that you utilize to work with the conditions around you is very important.
All right, so let's. I mean, I know I've focused a lot on the negatives here. So can we maybe talk a little bit about the positives,
Yes.
positive impacts family can have on cultivation?
There is none. End of show. Sorry. Kidding.
Starting to sound like me.
I'm just kidding. There's so much.
I love. For the record, I love my kids. In case anybody's questioning.
Excuse me. So, yes, there's very much positivity and very much negativity, but you can always use what's negative to enforce the positive. Therefore, the positive don't exist either. Now we know that. Let's leave that aside. What's the positive things? Positive things is personal inspection, personal investigation. Okay? I have a family. I'm just saying in generalizing, okay? I'm everybody, and I'm a cultivator. And my wife's not a cultivator, whether she is or not. Let's see. Whether she is or not, leave it up to the audience to decide, okay? Whether the person is either a wife or a husband, whatever. Okay? So now we have a child, and, my time for meditating is less now. I can't do 3-4 hours a day. I have to only do maybe a half hour if I get a chance to at all of actual sitting meditation, maybe standing meditation. Okay. So what do? I'm so used to doing so much more time. Okay. I shorten up my time. Like I said, get up a little earlier in the day. Okay. In the morning, do a half hour of your sitting meditation. Who said you've been meditating 3-4 hours for a long time? You still didn't get enlightened. So what's 30 minutes? 30 minutes is not going to change anything for you. So you do 30 minutes of actual sitting meditation, but the whole entire day, you apply mindfulness practice to what you're doing, how you're feeling, what you're thinking, how you're speaking, how you're sitting, how you present yourself to people in the world, in society, how you relate with your significant other and your child. You watch things like that. The good thing about that is you're not enforcing a specific idea upon the family. They're going to understand by your example. And they'll eventually come to utilize the views that you hold because those views are beneficial for them. They don't cause health problems. They don't cause arguments. They don't cause any types of, conflict. They try to bring some type of understanding and whatnot.
They'll kind of see you as a harbor of stability.
Ha ha ha. Hey, everyone argues here and there. I still have some type of, frustrations here and there, but that's okay. Hey, man, I'm 33 years old. I'm a baby in this world when it comes to cultivation too. So I got 20-something years since 8 years old of practice. Still a baby. When I hit 80, I probably just got out of high school. Okay? Maybe when I'm like 250 years old, I can say, hey, okay, now I got something going for me. So hey, you still have arguments here and there, but the arguments don't need to be so me, and you, pointing fingers here and there. You know what my frustrations and arguments are in the house? Really? I walked into the
Who ate
house
all the peanut butter?
You know what I'm saying? I had no peanut butter for my bread. I walked into the house and there was napkins ripped up all over the floor. Now I know it was the baby. No, my wife doesn't sit there ripping up napkins all day long, going, ripping up napkins. No, no. But I mean, I walked in and it was just like all over the floor, and our apartment's small, so it was like, wow, clutter, clutter. The world's caving in on me, I was like, who did this? I said a little frustrated. I said, who did this? And she came in walking the baby. The baby was walking in the house and she was holding it by the hands. And she goes, the baby did it. And she left. And I kind of like knew, obviously, but I was like thinking, oh, why didn't you just clean it up? In my mind, I was like, oh, God, you could just clean it up. But when she said the baby did it, the baby turned around. He's 11 months old. His first sentence, he goes, "Baby did it." It's so perfectly clear. So perfectly clear that all that frustration melted away. And I looked and I went, "Holy crap." I looked at him and said, "You just said your first sentence." And she looked at me and she had this smirk and smile. And I said, "Yeah, I know, there's paper all over the floor." And I came in a little frustrated. I was like, "Damn, all over the floor." She goes, "I know, isn't that funny?" I said, "Very funny." So it's like she's on the level of that kind of thing. She knew I would get frustrated. It was left there. And she didn't expect the baby to say what he said, but it totally diffused the situation. So instead of coming in and going, "What the hell, all this effing paper all over the floor?" Okay, maybe if it was me, maybe 13 years ago, I would have said that. But now I sit there and go, "Wow, there's a lot of paper on the floor," insinuating, why is there a lot of paper on the floor? It could have been cleaned up, you
Yeah.
know. But she caught it, and when she said the baby did it, the baby said he did it, and it totally just changed. So she helped diffuse the situation. Though I wasn't going to go any further with it, I was just going to pick it up, huffing and puffing, going, "Ay," like that, sighing of like frustration. But I didn't do that. I picked it up really excited. So, frustrations happen. Walking in the street out here, it's very detrimental to one's health. That's why I don't go walking around the street very much, because people drive like crap and they walk even worse and drive bikes like, crazy. But, I get frustrated. I was like, "Step on my other side. Don't walk on the street side, please." She goes, "Well, you're pushing the baby carriage." And I say, "I will be able to jump in front of the baby carriage if a car comes and whatnot. But if you're on my side, I got to choose between you and the baby. And I don't want to make that decision, because I'll probably just let both of you stay there." They start laughing. She looks at me. "That's not nice. You got to choose one or the other." I said, "I'll probably try to choose both. But then if I do, I'm probably going to end up getting killed anyway by a, speeding car. So then you're both stuck without me. I rather none of you stuck without me."
Well,
Okay?
that actually brings up an important point that, in a large sense, children can teach us selflessness, right?
Oh, very much. Very much. Because everything you're doing is not just for the child, it's for the whole entire household. Ah, whatever you're doing, everything you're breathing, you're waking up in the morning, is to make sure that kid has a house, has a roof over his head, whether it's rented or bought, has food to eat, has clean diapers, clothes, has all the ingredients necessary that you find that child will need to make himself mature into a very helpful being on this planet. So the moment of conception, your whole world is for that house. The whole entire idea of being selfless and helping every single living being on the world just happened in your child. So your cultivation matters for that kid. 100%.
Hmm.
Like I said before, that person sitting on the corner begging for food, that's your baby. The guy out
Yeah,
in the country who has no shoes to wear, that's your child.
I'm thinking about it now, though, and I'm wondering if an argument could be made by some people, at least, that the selflessness you express for your child is a little bit superficial in a way compared to the selflessness you would exhibit to a stranger. What do you think about that?
Very interesting. It's like saying the person in the street is just as the person in your home. So why don't you go out and help all the people in the street either? Ah, go ahead. Go and do that. Do you have the financial means to do that? No. Would that actually help those people? No. Make them feel full. They get food for today, but they may not have food for tomorrow. Why not create a company where you can give these people a job? I mean, if it was if it was come down to it, I mean, it goes to my thing about animal rights activists who eat meat, if they do, you know. Um, so if I'm sitting there going, "I'll take care of my baby like I take care of everyone else," well, I didn't give money to the person I passed up in the street this evening, and why? Well, because if I did give money to that person, tomorrow night that person will still be out asking for money. I don't have the money to fulfill that person's needs. Even a little bit would give them some type of superficial feeling of being fulfilled or having gotten something, and they'll be a little happy that there was kindness in the world. But in truth, that kind of kindness is superficial. Not saying don't help people when they need it, or don't help people who are asking for money and give them a little cash. That's cool. But understand the bigger picture is that the reason people are in this position is because of their karma. It doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it wrong. It doesn't make it, oh, it's okay to be indifferent. No, I'm not saying that at all. All I'm saying is if you actually had the means to free this person from that kind of bondage, by all means, give him that medicine. But if you don't, understand what you did is just superficial. Some people find superficial caring for the child as superficial, being, well, I have a child, so the right thing is make sure he has the best clothes, make sure he or she has the best type of schooling, has everything they ask for, love, 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 through all the material things. That itself is very superficial too. Okay. So how I was brought up was when I wanted a toy at 5 years old, my father said, "You have any money?"
Well,
I said, "I'm 5."
I use the same technique as your father.
I said, "I'm 5." He started laughing and goes, "So?" It's like, "I don't have money. I don't have a job." He goes, "We'll get a job." "I'm 5." He goes, "Sleep the house, do some errands, and I give you $5 a week. In time you save up and you buy yourself a toy." I did. By the time I had $40, I didn't want my toy anymore. I said, "Holy crap, I had $40." So I asked him, "Can I have $1? Who's having all the money I had?" It's like, "Well, I have $40, but I want 41." And he'll look at me, "You got $40 and now you want $1 so you can have $41?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, by the end of the week, you'll have $5. Remember, you still got chores to do, so make sure you do them or you don't get any money. That's your job." And I just walked away pouting. And I said, "Okay, whatever." And by the end of the week, I had $5 and I have $45. And I still didn't use the money to buy the toy I thought I wanted. I saved it up. Then I bought something else like a few months later. What it showed me was if I wanted something, I had to create the conditions to get it. My father taught me that you don't get things just for the sake of asking for them. You get things because you apply yourself for them. So if I end up poor, living on the streets, I must have did something to get there. Someone must have said, "Well, I'm not giving you a job. I fire you from your job." But then there's like billions of other places around the world that one can find a job. Maybe I need money to get around the world, so I'll do other jobs that I would never thought to do to get my goal. You see, people are very much focused on, the end result when the process is more important. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with the process? And you deal with the process by being mindful. What you put into it is what you're getting out of it. Very basic. So as a cultivator, the process entails your mind, your views about everything you're experiencing and everything you're going to be doing. Because remember, the people around you are going to experience you as well. And if they're going to experience you, that means you are influencing them too. So if you don't want to experience the things, that you don't like, then don't be those ways to people. And as a cultivator with a family, do the same exact thing. You cannot want the people around you in your family to accept what you do. You have to accept what they do. You cannot expect other people are just going to be fine with what you do because you're a cultivator of the way. Who cares you're a cultivator of the way? You're nothing special. You're just a cultivator of the way. It's just like there's just a tree growing on the corner or there's a dandelion growing in the backyard. It's just that thing. You have to accommodate people. That's what we do as a cultivator. We accommodate everyone because we investigate our mind. We cultivate methods to investigate the mind. We understand our reactions, our superficial reactions. We understand our views, our superficial views. We understand that these things that we base our whole entire world on are not real. But the other person doesn't know that. We can tell them, but they don't realize it, so they don't know it. But if we realized it, then we have to see that other people don't. So we have to take care of them. They're not handicapped. They're not dumb. They're not retarded or whatever, or they're not anything. And I'm talking in terms of putting down somebody for being not able to understand. That's the word we use. We use retarded. Has nothing to do with anything. But anywho, and everyone knows I speak very plainly doing the show. So
All
we
right.
have to
Well,
be able to accept people this way, okay, and accept where they are. That's the only way they're going to accept what we do. If we accept people from who they are. So if you had a wife or a husband who decides they're going to start cultivating, or if it's you personally, whoever's listening, that decides they're going to start cultivating in their middle of their 30-year relationship, and they're afraid it's going to cause some conflict, believe me, it's not going to cause conflict as long as you don't push it on people. You say, hey, I got this new practice. I want to, try to integrate it in my life. I'm going to need maybe about 20 minutes a day. Do you think that's going to be okay? You got to talk. You got to be like that. Some will argue, I don't need the other person's permission to do it. Okay, the hell you're in a relationship for? Things are 100% to 100%, not 50-50. It's 100-100. And if one person cannot deal with it, then you do it at a time when you're not with them. If it's, I go out to work by 9 o'clock, I'm in the office. Maybe leave the house early or go to a park and sit in a park. Maybe wake up early before people get up to start their day. 5:30? Wake up 5:30. Do a half hour. Maybe the night before, prepare your clothes so the next morning you wake up. You don't have to get dressed or worry about which clothes you're going to wear. And you just get up, you wash your face, brush your teeth, drink some warm water, and you go meditate for 20 minutes. Then you get up and go do your thing throughout the day and apply your principles throughout your day. Then you come home, maybe once everyone is sleeping or everyone's busy and it's getting late, you take about 20 minutes off the side and you do some sitting practice. You let the person know, I'm going to go and do some meditation. If there's anything you need, ask me now, if I can get you anything now. But, when I'm doing my practice for 20 minutes, please don't come looking for me. Be a little busy, I'm sure things will be fine. And you say afterwards, I'll come and see what you need. If it's really important, really, really important, meaning you're going to die, then wake me out of my meditation, bother me. But other than that, there you go. Like we go back before, you're not expecting children, and you have a child, accept it. That's just what it is.
oh, you're you're actually breaking up a bit there, Lynn. But
Was it
I
too
guess
bad, or-
well,
okay.
it's echoing a bit. I guess we're pretty much at the
Yeah, we're
end
beating
of.
a dead horse now.
Okay. All right. Well, I wanted to thank everybody for joining us. I know we could probably go a lot deeper into this, but
Yeah.
thanks for the discourse. And to quote the final chapter of the Tao Te Ching, the sage does not accumulate. The more he assists others, the more he possesses. The more he gives to others, the more he gains. Thanks everybody for
Awesome.
joining us.
And before
Thank.
we totally come to an end, I just wanted to say, if
Oh, you're
anyone
back.
wants to go, yeah, I'm still here. Sorry, haha.
No, no. No, I'm just
Before
saying
we, yeah, before
your
we
sound
close
your
out.
sound is good.
Oh, okay, great. Before we close up this session, if anyone wants to follow up on this discourse, if anyone wants to follow up on this conversation with me, you can reach me at GUIZHENHUI at YEAH.net and just put in the subject line family and cultivation. If you need a little, if you want to talk about it, you want to go further, feel free to contact me. We can, work on things like that.
All right. Thanks, Lynn.
Awesome.